Good afternoon and welcome to Bulldogs Behind the Scenes, where the series gives you a closer look at the people, places, and research connected to the University of Minnesota Duluth. Today, we're excited to explore a unique program that takes students abroad to learn, conduct research, and expand their global perspectives. Before we begin, we are going to take a moment here just to pause to let everyone finish logging on. Well, I'm Molly Clevin with the UMD Alumni Relations team, and I'm so glad you could join us. Today, we'll be going behind the scenes with Dr. Ryan Goei and Dr. Dana Lindaman as they share insights into their Undergraduate Research Study Abroad program, known as URSA. Before we dive in, I'd like to highlight a few of the other places we've explored through the series, including the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, Amsoil Arena, the Superior Hiking Trail, the proposed UMD Sales Center, the UMD Chocolate Lab, Romano Gym, and many more. If you missed any of these, you can watch recordings anytime on our website. Today's session is being recorded and will also be available on our website. You'll receive an email with the link once it's ready. We'll also have time for questions at the end, so as you're listening, feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Now to introduce our guests. Dr. Ryan Goei has been at UMD since 2003. He is an associate professor of communication with a focus on social influence as well as intercultural and interpersonal communication. He has also served as director of UMD's University Honors Program since 2012 and has been leading students abroad since 2013. Dr. Dana Lindaman has been at UMD since 2010. He is an associate professor of French in the Department of World Languages and Cultures and has served as department head since 2023. He brings extensive experience leading students abroad since 2004 with programs in France, England, and Morocco. So Ryan and Dana, thank you so much for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. We're really excited. So I'm Dana Lindaman, Associate Professor of French here at UMD.
And I'm Ryan Goei.
We're really excited to be able to have this opportunity to speak with you about our URSA program. This is something that we have a great deal of affection for, and it's something we've seen really, really good results with students in interacting with it. URSA started actually some years ago. Ryan and I took part in a study abroad program that the University of Minnesota had called SPAN. It had 70 years of experience in sending students abroad every summer, different countries every summer, 2 different destinations, and it was a really incredible thing. We had the good fortune of being able to take part in the final iteration of it in 2017. And apparently the year after, 2 years later, the University of Minnesota decided to cut it. But we had such incredible experiences with our students in that program that we wanted to rebuild a version of it up here at UMD because we saw what it could do in students' lives. So in doing that, we decided to focus on a particular country, Morocco. So we didn't send students all over the world. We wanted to lean into relationships and deepen the relationships that we had made in 2017 and focus on one particular area. One of the things that we liked so much about the SPAN program was that it really gave students agency and autonomy. So it leaned into giving students responsibility for the things that they were learning there and built up that trust. And that means that students were pushed into things that may be uncomfortable, but we had built up a structure of support. Part of that was going back to the same country again and again and having those deep relationships, which meant that it was like a country looking after our students and not just us alone. And the structure of the program, just really briefly, we'll talk more about this, but is really a spring prep class that students take that has to do with cultural preparation and research methodologies preparation. And then they take that and they conduct their research in country over the summer. And then that's during 6 weeks. And then they come back after that and spend at least the next fall or the next fall and spring writing up their research with a faculty advisor. And we encourage them to submit it for publication, present at a conference. The idea is doing real research in something like this. It's a heavy lift, but one that we feel like is really important.
So we'll walk you through each step of the model because it's kind of complicated. It's certainly not like most study abroad programs or any that we've seen. The SPAN discontinuation prompted us to go to our study abroad office in 2018 and say, can we please rebuild something in the spirit of this that is acceptable for the University of Minnesota? So we worked for a long time, a couple of years, putting that together up until 2020 and rolled out our first version. The URSA model, it spans at least a year and a half, sometimes up to 2 years, depending on who you're focused on in the model. Dana and I start this process really early. If we were going to go to Morocco in 2027, we would be recruiting already this spring. We go full recruitment mode in the fall, which would be this upcoming fall, and we would recruit the crew that we would take in that 2027. Now, that involves all kinds of things, at least initially, trying to convince students to go abroad to do research and invest time ahead of time to prepare that research proposal, invest time on the backside of being abroad to analyze and write up and present that proposal was quite a haul. There weren't a lot of students who were dying to commit a year and a half of their lives to one study abroad program. So it took a lot of heavy lifting and going to class, talking to students one-on-one. That fall recruitment process results in a pool of students who apply. And the application is outside of our study abroad office. That's just for Dana and I to review students, to see if we can assemble a team that we want to bring to Morocco. And when we're putting that team together, we're asking them to write a personal statement. We're, of course, looking at their transcripts. And then we're interviewing them to spend some time getting to know them. And in this day and age, we also have to ask them to write live because AI and the internet has changed that process a lot. So what we do is we interview them, we ask them to write some things down live to kind of see their voice, hear their voice, and make sure we know the kind of person that we're inviting into our program. That application process, quite rigorous. We select a team probably mid-late October, and we invite them over to our homes. So this is my backyard. And we believe really strongly that the way to make a program like this as meaningful as it can be is to connect with our students fully. So we've already spent that time reviewing all of their materials. We've interviewed them. We've seen their live writing. Now they're in our homes and we're welcoming them into our program. That connection, as you'll see as we run it through, is really central to how we see the transformation of our students. So that is our fall. Then we start spring. And spring is a 4-credit preparation course. And in this course, we're trying to fit it into their schedule. So we actually meet, I know this sounds terrible, but it actually is not. It's a quite delightful time. We meet Saturdays and we do all day Saturdays, 4 or 5 of those in a semester, where we're sitting with students all day, working through research ideas, getting them prepared for the institutional review board, which is university jargon for these really complicated approval processes in order to do research with human subjects. And we're preparing them for the culture and the moments that they're going to experience that will potentially press them. And what we're really trying to do is set them up for with connections with one another so they can support one another while they're walking through these difficult things. There will be difficulties with research. There will be difficulties with experiencing, different things in the culture, and we want them to be well connected when they go. We're also giving them a bunch of cultural prep, giving them new value lenses through which to understand Morocco and Moroccan culture. Moroccan culture, like all cultures, is constantly evolving. So we're also constantly evolving and changing this part and trying to prepare them in different ways. I guess if we were to sum this section up in a short way, it would be to say, we're trying to help prepare our students to see beauty where they're not used to looking for beauty. So we're trying to get them open to a bunch of things that might otherwise feel uncomfortable, but to reframe that, to see the beauty and the value in those spaces. So we're working really hard on that in that spring preparation course. And then we're also giving them some language prep. So we give them some intro French, because French is one of the official languages. And then we give them some Moroccan Arabic, which is called Darija. And Darija is really the currency that helps them get access to a different level of relationship with Moroccans. So we give them a lot of this language training in the spring. We also connect them with Moroccans themselves. So we sometimes have Moroccan contacts who will Zoom in, or we have Moroccan students on campus with whom we'll connect our students. And we also bring back our URSA alumni. And this is a photo of one or more of them here. They're kind of scattered about as I look at this picture, connecting with our current URSA students and helping them, prepare for what's coming. And then we wrap with a banquet, and that banquet is actually tonight for the cohort that's going this summer. We'll meet together at a venue tonight, just like this picture. We'll meet in the Clyde here in Duluth, and families will be there. Parents and guardians, siblings will be there. The chancellor comes, Dana and I, and the URSA leader for this year, John Dahl, will speak some things about the program. It's a really interesting process to try to bring students to do something so unique to a place like Morocco. And there are lots of fears and uncertainties about going into the MENA region of the world amongst our northern Minnesotan peers. And so we have to work a little bit against that. So this Bon Voyage banquet is a chance to talk to the families, for those families to hear alumni. And this photo is alumni from 2022 speaking a bit about his experience. And those are powerful testimonies that help people feel more comfortable going to Morocco.
One of the fun things about this banquet last year was that there was a father who came up to me at the beginning of it and said, "So what is this night all about?" And I said, "Well, this is a night where we assuage some of your fears. If you have fears about sending your child abroad with us to Morocco, across the ocean and doing this research for 6 weeks in this foreign country, this is a place where you can get your questions answered and feel comfortable doing that." So he sat through the whole thing, and when it was done, we finally finished. He walked straight up to me, shook my hand, and he said, "You're right. Please take it. This is exactly what I want for my daughter." And she had an incredible experience. So you're going to get to hear a bit about that at the end of this presentation. So this brings us then, we've done our prep course. We are ready to go abroad. So now students head abroad to Morocco, and that means flying into country. So from some of our students, they have never been out of the country before. Some have never actually been on a plane before. And so we have asked students, their first flight is a flight to Paris and then to Morocco. And it's a really magical thing to welcome the students there in country. One of the things we want to do with them right away is get them orientated. So that means we have 5 days of orientation. It starts with 2 days in Rabat, the capital city, where we have our university partner. That partner is UIR for short, but it stands for the International University of Rabat. Really fantastic partners. We've known them for many years. I think we first met some of the partners there in 2017, and then we've been using them ever since. They've been fantastic. They help out in all sorts of ways, and they really alleviate the stress of students in a place like that.
So
because
much
if
stress,
somebody gets ill or somebody has difficulty navigating something, they need help arranging logistics. Our partners there are really good for that sort of thing. And then that orientation from Rabat, we take them, spend a couple of days, a few more days in a couple of other cities around the country to give them a sense of the flavor of Morocco, how it's a really diverse landscape and culinary traditions and other things. And it's great for them to experience some of that with each other. So they spend time together in those first 5 days. And this will be the last time that they're all together before they're launched into their independent research. So it's a really important time for them to be reassured in the presence of one another, because they're going to be relying on each other as they're doing these difficult things. And from there, it's launching into research. They come back from that orientation, they end up in they go to their homestay families, and they start on their research. And research in Morocco can look like anything. Everybody has their own project. This is Anna. Anna was doing a research on birds. She was redoing a bird count study that had been done back around, I think, the early 2000s. And she was able to verify that certain of these duck species are thriving, others are struggling. And she's working on publishing a paper now on that project. Some of these young women were doing different aspects of maternal care. So they went to a baby expo in Casablanca and met this wonderful Irish woman who helped them out. Really fantastic opportunities. Another student did research on Roman ruins. So she visited 3 different sites throughout the country where they have these Roman ruins and got to, she found coins, You can see in the left image, there are actually bones, Roman bones from back in the day that we were trying not to step on. And then another student was doing a research on dune migration. So he chose a spot just north of Rabat, was able to plant his data collection set, and is now following that. Another student did research on cats. Cats are really popular and really numerous in many of the large cities around Morocco. And so she did a cat study in Rabat, and doing that cat count drew a bunch of her colleagues into doing some of the stuff with her. It's such a great way to get to explore the country in ways that you would not think of otherwise. But we had these, deserted country roads that we were going down to try to find cats, and seeing parts of the city that we had never seen before. And then another one of our students in 23 did some research on fishing. What is the culture of fishing in Morocco? And he got to do a lot of fishing and met a lot of people doing it and had these great experiences and caught himself an octopus. But in addition to us speaking about it, we think it's really important that you hear some of the students speak about their research experience. So we have a few videos here that we'd like to share with you. Really short, but it's them being able to talk about their own research in country.
My name is Anna Marie Johnson. This morning we're going out to Sidi Bou Habba to look at some ducks. I read a lot of papers on where ornithology research was going in Morocco, and I found this paper from about 15 years ago that did a study of 7 breeding ducks in Sidi Bou Habba, and so I'm just doing an update 15 years later to see if there's still this many ducks, has the composition changed, have the number of ducks changed, as well as how has the lake changed in general. I've got about 5 points set out here, different spots. So I go there and I scan from left to right and I just look at every single duck that's there. And I mark it down in, I use ArcGIS, and so I have field maps on my phone and on my iPad. And so all of these dots are recording, so you can click on it. So I record how many there are, what species it is. I'm using the 4-letter banding code, how many females there are, how many males there are, and then if there are any juveniles present, as well as just general comments. So I've seen mallards, bully, red-crested pochards, and common pochards off of things, and so I write that down because I think that's pretty interesting to see who's able to dominate who out here in the wetland. So I record that for every single species that I see. This is a new duck alert. I actually don't know which one this is yet. Hold on. This is not one of the 7. I've never seen this duck before. This is very exciting. The most interesting thing that I found so far is that the white-headed duck population, which is an endangered duck, has dramatically increased in the past 15 years. So it's super important, showing that protecting wetlands does work, conservation does work. These species are, they're coming back, and it's really beautiful to see that there's just such an increase in this population compared to what's been in previous years. Also proving that this habitat is suitable for them to breed in, because they are breeding here, it's working, and so these numbers are coming back up for this species, which is really, really exciting to see. Ducks are awesome.
Yeah, Anna Marie is our bird nerd. She did so much with birds, so much with these ducks there. It was incredible. And what was great too is you got to see this other student sort of there with her. Her research drew other students into that, and it's really fun to see that. Next up, we've got Ryan Shabert, who is doing a study out in the ocean, but I'll let him explain it to you.
I'm Ryan Shabert. I'm working on feasibility for ocean thermal energy conversion in Rabat. So today we're going out on a boat to get temperature readings in the water, and the purpose of that is to figure out what the actual thermal gradient is in certain spots along the shoreline, so that I can see if there's enough temperature difference from the top to the thermocline to actually support an efficient system. Ocean thermal energy conversion is a form of clean energy that uses the temperature gradient along from the surface of the ocean water down to the thermocline. The thermocline is where the temperature starts to rapidly drop off in the ocean. And so essentially the way it works is you use the hot surface temperature of the water that gets heated by the sun, and you use that to heat up a fluid that goes through a turbine to make power. And then the fluid goes down through the ocean into the thermocline region, where it cools down and reliquefies, and then it gets pumped back up to the surface to reheat, and create more energy.
11 meters.
And so the input power for the pump that brings it back up is a lot lower because it's at a liquid than the output power that it gets from the turbine. So you get nonstop renewable energy just based off of the temperature gradient that already exists in the ocean. And it's very stable as well in comparison to something like solar or wind, which have a lot of inconsistencies. So once it gets set up, it's very efficient and it's very free. We got data. You can see it here.
Ryan's another great example of drawing other people into his research. The students really helped him out on that boat. They got sick as a result, but they had a good time, and they had a lot of stories to tell. So our last one here is Charlie. And Charlie is a totally different arena, music, but it's a really fun story.
Hi, my name is Charlie, and my research is concerned with documenting my experience working with Moroccan musicians here in Rabat, specifically by playing with them at jam sessions and discovering how jam sessions can be a way to form community for these people. Come on, guys! One of the things I really love about the jam sessions is how every single week I can show up and you tend to see the same 4 or 5 people, and that's kind of like the core group that's there. And it's such a fun community experience because after showing up for 4 or 5 weeks to this place, I start to see the same people every time. And even if I don't really know them, through playing music, I start to feel like they're my friends and they're people who I see regularly. I think the big thing I'm going to bring back is the energy of the musicians I've been playing with. Because there's so many people here who I've met who have been fantastic musicians, and they've been completely just without egos, just love playing music, and they have such good energy, not only personally, but in their music as well. I think that a lot of the music I've been playing here has been very groovy and very funky stuff, which is not usually the kind of music that I make, and it's something that I've just kind of been loving being able to do as a change of pace here. So I'm definitely going to be bringing back a little bit of that energy from Morocco.
Charlie was a great story. He'd had most of his gigs were in Agadir in some of these venues, like this one right here in Pietri. But he also had gigs like in the video in Agadir, and I think he played in Casablanca at some point. So he got a lot of experience. And like this, one of the things that we try to teach students is that when you're in a space like Morocco, you want to be open to things. So like Ryan was talking about looking for beauty in the world where you might otherwise not look for it. Every day is going to present you with something new. And you just want to be open to that new thing. And so Charlie's jam sessions lead to an invitation to play at a venue like this, to be part of a more organized jam session. So he ends up playing here, and they put him on keyboards. They keep him there most of the night. He's got all these other artists coming through, some actually really famous musicians.
It was literally magic.
It was incredible.
One of the most amazing nights of our lives, just to witness it.
And so out of that, so he meets some interesting people, and they invite him to a studio session. So the jam session leads to something organized. That leads to a studio session where this guy who's really well known in Morocco is like, why don't you just come and spend an afternoon with me? Let's record some music. So Ryan and I take him and this other guy, Alex, and one of our partners, Lutfi. We go and we spend probably 6 hours there. And it's Charlie recording his guitar, recording his voice, and they put together this beautiful thing. So when we left that afternoon, this is the sample that was recorded. It's a famous Arabic song, Zina, about somebody beautiful. And what you're going to hear here is the music that was recorded that afternoon. So all the instruments on here, the instrumentalization, the guitar, is Charlie playing. The vocals is Charlie singing. And this is us with one of those magical moments after that studio session, just driving back to Rabat along the coast.
Bravo, Alex! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Those sorts of things are magical, and they're numerous. There's things you can't script. You can't plan those things. You can only plan to create space where those types of things happen. And those happen a lot in spaces like Morocco. So doing that, students finish up their research. You see, we've just finished the number 3 here. We go to number 4, where they're coming back and coming back into to UMD to work with their faculty advisor to write up their research. So that means spending time at the library, spending time at the writing center, working with faculty members, working with each other, working with us as program leaders on getting this done. And the thing that we're encouraging them to do with this is to think about something bigger than just a paper, like present it at a conference or make it part of an undergraduate research opportunity, or present at least in class. But the idea for any research, any good undergraduate research has these 4 components. One of them is that mentoring. So we have a faculty advisor that they're working with in their discipline. They're working with us. But then some of the other factors, can't remember the other 2 right now. But the 4th one is dissemination. And that idea of dissemination is putting it out there. And we want them to do that. So we're at least going to bring their publications together and publish our own version of it. But we want them to take it out and disseminate their new knowledge with the public itself. And that sometimes is in the classroom as well. So there's all these different ways for them to disseminate it.
Yeah, and then in that fall and spring after they return, we're also guiding them through a personal growth journey, not just their research journey. So we mandate that they reflect. And so we ran this program without reflections for a while, and over time we realized, no, we have to make sure they're doing that. So we structure them in-country reflections, and then when they're here, we meet right away in the fall to reflect after it's been a couple of months back home, a little bit removed from Morocco, and then we're doing that in writing again when they finally finish, when they've finished their research. What has the research journey meant to you? What has Morocco meant to you? Now you're about a year away from having been in Morocco. You're more mature. You've really grown through this. What are those growth points? Because we want them to not just have an amazing time in Morocco and not just have a research project. We also want them to be able to articulate what it meant and how they changed. And that's the level of knowledge that's then becomes sustainable, that they bring throughout their life, that they share with their children if they have kids, or with their students if they're teaching, or their colleagues where they're working. So that's that kind of sustainability piece and personal growth. That's a good segue into what we think makes URSA unique. And study abroad is always wonderful. There's just so many great study abroad opportunities here at the U of M and UMD and all over the globe. It's always good. What we're trying to do, we'll try to focus on some of the things that a lot of other programs don't have. And so one of the things we're trying to do that you can see in what Dana was talking about when he's talking about Charlie's experiences, we're trying to give them a lot of independence. We're trying to, I'm skipping around on our agenda because it fits so well with what you just showed them. We're trying to give them autonomy in country to collect exactly the data they want to collect, and to be able to have the freedom to say yes. So our program does not have a course structure or a class requirement once they're in country. When they go to Morocco with us in URSA, they are solely charged with collecting their data, which means they have a lot of free time also. And we trust in their agency. We entrust them with that kind of autonomy, and we talk about that overtly. And we want them to go out and to experience immersion in this space and to say yes to opportunities as they emerge. One of the differences between Morocco and the United States is that the Moroccans are very in the present. We tried for a few years to try to plan things. We're like, let's work ahead and make an organized event, and that never works. And when the Moroccans concede on a program like that, it's never the magic of what Charlie went through. So we've largely just kind of backed off of that and said, okay, let's be in Morocco and let Morocco take us wherever it takes us. And so the freedom to be able to do that is a really, really amazing and I think unique part of it. The other part is we're going to ask undergraduates to do research, and asking undergraduates to do research is a tremendous pull. It just This is the kind of thing that only happens in graduate school, rarely happens in graduate school that they get published. I mean, we're pushing them to produce a thing that might get published. It's just a whole lot of work, and it's a work on our side, it's work on their faculty mentor side, and it's a tremendous amount of work for the student to say, hey, yeah, okay, I want to do that. I have no idea what that is, and I've never even thought about it before. So it's just a bunch of work. Now, take that and do it abroad. That complicates things in ways that are unimaginable, and then make that abroad experience be a non-white, non-Western, non-Christian space when we have non-white, non-Western, non-Christian students who go in URSA, but they're also living here in that white Western Christian space pretty regularly. And so to get out of our spaces and to inhabit this very, very different place is also a push. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance in URSA some really difficult, challenging pushes. We want them to strain. We want them to labor. We want them to fail. And we want to look them in the eye and say, you've got this, you don't need me. And to watch them persevere and try again and fail again and do it one more time. And that's the model. The model is, yes, we're going to support and we're going to balance support, but what we're trying to do is find the supports that aren't the things that if they struggle against will lead to big growth. So we're trying to leave unsupported those things that we want them to struggle against because they'll lead to growth. And that's a very difficult thing to balance, but we're trying to do that. And so we're pushing them in all kinds of ways. The other thing we're doing is we're pushing them off their devices. Just the sea change of the information environment in the last, it's really been 20, 25 years, but really since 2012, 2015 has been so overwhelming to our students and to all of us. We're really trying to push them out of it. So you saw the picture earlier where we're in class and we have all their smartphones in phone jail. Like, we're regularly talking about this and helping them to see that if they want to build connections in Morocco, they're going to have to put their phone down. They can use it, of course, initially to make connections, and then they have to sit there and be still in physical space and be awkward and uncomfortable, and then do it again the next day, the next day, and the next day, until one of their host family members starts to feel comfortable because they're sharing that eye contact and that physical space, and they're offering to help clean up the dishes over and over and over again. And that low-tech push is what is difficult for them. And we're pushing them pretty hard on that front so that they'll build relationships. And those relationships are the key to helping them grow and succeed in their research. So URSA is designed around the building of relationships in order to support their research and their personal growth, our two major goals. So we're structuring those things in many, many different ways. So it's not just leaving it to chance, because a lot of students go abroad. If you go abroad without the prep, the beauty prep that we've talked about, if you go without the relationships with your cohort, and you go without the talk about low tech, then relationships are much less likely to happen. And then there's sometimes when people go abroad, this backfire, this boomerang effect, right? We're like, hey, Morocco sucked. I didn't like it there. I'm really glad I live in the United States. And we're trying to eliminate that as a potential response to being there. And relationships is the key to that.
It gets back to one of the things that this idea of relationships is a way that the students support each other, and it's the thing that they talk about when they come back. So when we're helping them to articulate their experience in Morocco, yes, there's the research side of it, but really it's the relationship side. It's helping them understand the growth that they experienced while they were in Morocco, the experiences that they underwent, and what that means and who they are and how they work. And you end up with these really incredible stories from students where they talk about like, how do you explain Morocco? We asked them, people ask when you get back, so how's Morocco? And it's too simple a question to be able to answer in, 2 sentences. But everybody else who was on that trip with them understands the depth of that question and the significant changes that went on. So students, when they articulate that change, it's often I don't know. I can't tell you exactly. I just know that I went as one person and I came back as another. Things like that hint at this depth of the experience that they undergo there. So what do those relationships look like for us? One we've already talked about, that's the team. It's the cohort that they're going with. And we've worked through from the selection process, through the time spent in our homes, to the spring course, to help them to get to know one another. And again, they're coming from all different disciplines, but they're going to be one of the main support systems for each other where they're there.
Sorry, I'm just cracking up at Munir.
The blue on the left, that's Munir. He's great. He's now in med school in Kansas City. Another version of it is roommates. So they're doing homestays typically with a roommate, and that roommate is somebody who's going to help them to process the things that are happening. Like, I don't know why they said that to me. I don't know what they want from me in this situation. Because in many ways, the homestays, they're not English speakers. So there's a communication barrier. But what's really interesting is that one of the stories that we hear again and again and again of meaningful time in Morocco is time that they spent in a living room in silence with their home family, their host family. Just something about that is really meaningful. And they're not, sharing memes or communicating back and forth via phone or having this big raucous conversation. They're just sharing space together in a simple and intimate way. And it's deeply moving to many of our students because they're not used to doing that sort of thing. The students also tend to go off, maybe they have some similar interests or their research supports somebody else's, or they just need some help doing something. They end up forming these little clusters and they sometimes travel together or do these sorts of things. So it's another way of, in a smaller group way, experiencing pieces of Morocco. And as faculty, we want our students to connect with us as faculty, as program leaders, with their advisors here. And we try to live out this relational aspect as a model for students. And just because that's a part of the way that we approach life is relationally. So we have made these really incredible friends in Morocco over the year. And again, if we had a different country every year, it would be harder to do this. But because we go back to Morocco again and again, we're investing more deeply in these relationships. This is Ahmed. Ahmed, we met in 2017. He was renting rooms out at Airbnb, $9 a night for a bed in his place. And met him that year. He invited us to do iftar during Ramadan. So we did that with him several times. And we have kept that relationship up. Every time we go back, we go visit him. And he has built his one-room Airbnb into a multi-story building home where his mom does the cooking and he invites people in from all over the world. And he absolutely adores our students because he loves the way that they come and ask questions and are curious and are invested in relationship. And he lives in a neighborhood that no tourist would visit per se. It's not a destination for tourists, but it's a place where students get to experience like real authentic Moroccans interacting with each other in daily ways. Another thing we like to do for our students is we talk about wanting to get to know them. The spring course is really good for us because it gives us time to watch our students, observe our students, interact with them, work with them, so that we're going to get to know them in a more personal way. And what does that look like? Well, in John's case, these are the pictures that John, who's the leader this year, drew for students in their journals. We give all the students a journal where they can keep track of their data. They can journal about their daily life, the things they're learning there, about their own experiences or frustrations. But John illustrated the front page of every one of those with images of Morocco. So,
all URSA leaders must be artists.
I've been done a long time ago there. So another thing that we do is in getting to know them, we really get to know their areas of strength and areas of growth for each of them. And we talked about making that selection of 18 students for an individual cohort. Those 18 students, we don't want all of the same type of student. We don't want 18 type A high achievers. That doesn't really do much for us. What we want is 18 students that are going to work well together. And that means that when they're going off to Morocco and getting on that flight, we're handing them an envelope that is a letter just for them outlining what we see as their strengths and the things that we're going to need them to demonstrate when they're in Morocco, strengths that we're going to rely on as a group, and then opportunities for growth of things for them to look at improving or working on while they're there. And of course, we talked about the homestays. The homestays is a really precious thing for the students to be able to have these families where they can dine together, ask questions, and really get to know them. It's a really beautiful thing. They have Moroccan friends. These Moroccan peers are students, typically their age, who are maybe doing research or just in college, but they are getting to share what life is like in Morocco. And in many cases, they're English speakers, so it helps our students in that way as well. They have these really wonderful conversations across, cultural boundaries and everything. And of course, they're sharing in each other's research. This is one of Charlie's gigs. A bunch of students came out to support him and got to listen to him and met Adil, who is this drummer from this famous Moroccan band, toured the world, played in the Kennedy Center.
And apparently likes the Chicago Bulls.
And loves the Bulls and loved Charlie. So kept bringing Charlie into these experiences, and it was fantastic. We also bring back our alum. Our alum really like to work with the next cohort. They have a lot of experiences and wisdom to share for them. And it never fails. Every time we go back now, alum from some year want to come back while we're there and rekindle some of those relationships they had there, see some of the same spots, help. Just something magical happens there that they want to come back and be part of again.
So I mentioned earlier, we're balancing push versus support. The supports that we aren't worried about because we don't think they lead to big personal growth we want to get things out of the way, like can it fit inside their program? Can they make it work while they're working toward graduation? So we do all kinds of things. I mentioned the scheduling. Also, we go in the summer instead of during the school year, so they don't have to change their fall semester plans. And also they get to choose their own topic, so they can choose a topic that fits in their majors if they're working hard in their majors, or someplace else if they're working hard in a minor or something like that. Trying to make everything fit. The other thing we believe really strongly is that money should never get in the way of a student who wants to do something so tremendously difficult. And if a student comes to us and says, yes, we want to try this really huge project, then Dana and I take very seriously that we should help them in any way we can if money gets in the way. We spent a lot of time trying to do that and soliciting donor funds and to build scholarship dollars to make sure that this tremendous experience is never not undertaken because money got in the way. And the last thing we do, we've also talked about a little bit, which is we're trying to deal with the fears of their families, the fears that they have, students themselves, about going abroad. And that spring prep, the Bon Voyage banquet, we're trying to take all those things away, or not take them away, but at least make them feel comfortable enough to go take a stab at this really big and complicated thing. All of these structures that we've built we're really proud to say that it's led to a tremendous amount of success. We have 50 plus students who apply every time we run a cohort for 18 spots. And all of our students, 100% of them, have returned from Morocco and finished their research project. Those are huge accomplishments that we're really proud of. And we believe that some of this work that we're doing to take away barriers and to otherwise support them is making that happen. And just to contrast it with most study abroad programs do not have a 4-credit preparation course where they're spending multiple months talking about what it's going to be like in country. That significantly changes the experience for our students in Morocco.
This leads to a great deal of success for our students beyond UMD as well. So our students often, when they're applying for jobs, when they get that interview, the interviewers want to talk about this Morocco experience. Tell me about this thing. What is this URSA thing? What happened there in your life? It's an incredible thing for them to be able to share and talk about. And they tell us that it's the thing the interviewers want to talk about and thing that probably landed them the job in many cases. A lot of our students end up going on to grad school, law school, med school, all sorts of study beyond UMD. You see some of the examples here. I'd just like to highlight a couple of them. So you see the LSU in the top right. LSU is a student here who had never been out of the country, never been on a plane. She ended up coming through the COM program and she went abroad, did this thing. It was a huge bite for her. She did it. She published her article, and she ended up getting a full ride to LSU for the COM program in graduate school. We have two right now who are at Penn State, full ride in the COM program. Another one going to UConn, and they, in many ways, these universities consider it a funnel into their programs. We have students who have gone on to Howard Law on a full ride, which is like almost unheard of. Editor of the Harvard or the Howard Law Review. We have another student. The final quick story is another student who came to me in French one day and said, "I think I'd like to do some research." Connected him to URSA. He goes and does his research in Morocco on immersion. He ends up getting turning that research into an application to grad school in France. They want him to do that in France. He's done a master's. He's now been accepted to a PhD program, and they're sending him to the regional, so all the regional languages, the national conference that happens, because they want his research to inform what they're doing in France, the policies on regional languages. It's really, really incredible the things that these students are doing. And whether it's jobs right out of this, continued education right out of this, whatever they're doing. And that's just part of it. The important thing to us is that they're growing as human beings.
Yeah, and that personal side of it is so important to us. And we're equally interested in setting them up for these tremendous opportunities as we are seeing them find new things, new loving ways to inhabit the world, more compassionate ways to do their work. Just we're really, really interested in helping our young people grow. And so we can't really tell those stories very well. So we have this video of an alum from last year, 2025. This is Jamie Pierce talking a bit about her experience in Morocco.
We'll just finish on this here.
Hello, my name is Jamie Pierce, and I went to Morocco in the spring of 2025, summer of 2025. And I'm a junior right now, but when I graduate, I plan on getting my master's in communication somewhere and my PhD in communication and teaching communication. Oh, wow, so cool. The experiences that I had that meant the most to me were those moments when it was just me and my host mom, just sitting down and not talking because we didn't speak the same language, but just us sitting next to each other and helping her out around the house, or meeting people on the street and, you know, just doing something nice for them and doing what I can to help out and be who I am, but in a different context. If you really invest yourself and you take the time to roll yourself into the culture and become a Moroccan and allow yourself to really be at the will of the people and the culture and the cities that you'll go to, that is going to be the most rewarding part of the experience. That is where you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself. And at least for me, I remember getting off the plane when I got back to the US, and I had this feeling of peace so deep in my heart and soul. Like, I wasn't worried about anything. I was calm. I was relaxed. I was, at peace. I felt I had this, I don't even know how to describe it, just like this clarity inside my soul. Like my whole body was still, you know? And if I hadn't gone to Morocco, or if I had gone and didn't invest in the people, didn't invest in the culture or the experiences or those like quiet moments that seem silly or are often overlooked, if I hadn't invested myself, I would not have found that kind of peace, and I would not be the person that I am today.
So that's a beautiful story to end on, and that's a bit about URSA, and we'd be happy to take some questions about the program.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing about this incredible program and the opportunities that it provides for the students. I think all of those videos are very touching, so thank you for sharing those as well. As it was mentioned, we are taking questions now, and if you'd like to submit a few questions through the Q&A box, you are welcome to. We do have a few here to kind of get us started, so the first one is kind of curious about, why did you choose Morocco and in that location? And I'll let either one of you or both of you respond to that.
Yeah, go for it.
Morocco was an intentional choice. So as I mentioned earlier, we started with SPAN in 2017 in Morocco. And in the way we ended up in Morocco is that there are a lot of relationships that the University of Minnesota already has pre-existing in Morocco. There's many people in positions of authority, in industry, in government, who actually studied at the University of Minnesota and are now well placed within the Moroccan society. And so it gives us an opportunity to interact with people in different parts of society. And when we first went on visits in 2016, so before we took students, we were introduced to some of them, and really wonderful people and really ready to help us out in whatever way. And so I think that led to a really good experience for us and our students in 2017. And then when Ryan and I were looking at, okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to focus on one place, or we want to go to different places? We decided, because we're so relationally oriented, we really wanted to push into these relationships that we had been exposed to and started in Morocco, and some of the new ones that we had begun. And so that was the choice. And we feel like it's been a really, really good thing for us and for our students in Morocco. It really changes the experience for our students. And it changes the way that we approach our time there. I mean, both of us talk about the growth, our personal and professional growth that we have experienced through this program in Morocco and through our partnerships and our friendships with people that we have met in Morocco.
We're learning the same way our students are. It's been transformational for me. And we are thinking about expanding. So the goal is to kind of, get enough support financially that we can build that kind of sustained relationship with some other places. So we're hopeful to be able to do that in the coming years, maybe to build out in China and maybe in India. So yeah, that's
awesome. We just had a question come in. Just curious if either of you had ever expected URSA to become the thing that it is now, this amazing, robust program. If you had ever, considered that would happen, just considering that it has grown so much.
So I have to start with one quick story, and then I'll let you answer this. Okay. But when I was exposed to this possibility of SPAN in 2017, I came back. So Ryan and I we have an approach that's, again, very relational with our students and the work that we do, and in our friendship and with our colleagues and everything. Ryan used to lead a group to Hawaii that was very relationally focused. The university is often concerned about risk and things like that, and rightly so in many ways. But when I described to him what SPAN was, Ryan said, "There's no way that does not exist. That's not possible." And he would not believe me. I'm like, no, I think we can do this thing. And so eventually he went on his visit and he said, "Oh my goodness, let's try this." And we did it in 2017, and we were so blown away by the deep and rich experience that the students had. We're like, this has to continue in some way.
Yeah, it was they did cancel it, so I was kind of right.
True that. In the Twin Cities, they did. I
didn't think that the university would support a program like this. I didn't, honestly, to be really frank about it. And the other way to say that is, what a special place. I mean, I'm so honored to work in a place that has taken a chance on a thing that a lot of other places wouldn't do. In fact, I don't know of a program like this anywhere in the world. And we have looked, and what's happening now is other universities are coming to us and asking, how on earth did you make that happen? Because, the kind of independence that the students have abroad is rare. It's not usually like that. And how can you convince students to come for 4 Saturdays in their spring? The people want to know. And I don't know how it worked. Honestly, we invested a lot of love into this, and we are looking our students in the eye. You have to be in person, and you have to look at them and say, we just trust us. This is going to be really long, and it's going to be very difficult, but there's a great reward at the end. And what we found is that both from the administrators, they've bought that story, and from our students, there's a deep longing, a hunger for being pushed to do really, really difficult things. Yeah. And if you're also kind of guiding them through that, as much as you can, leaving them independent and supporting when they're going to crack, there's this really beautiful magic that emerges in learning. And so now we're in the place where our administrators see that, and thank you to them for supporting this amazing thing. And our students see that, and our recruiting job has become it's much easier because the alumni come back and they do that recruiting for us.
That's the magic. Yeah, it's really incredible.
So you had shared a variety of the students and their research kind of throughout the years, and considering these, I'm kind of curious who you think are the ideal students for this program.
Oh, I mean, there are very few students we wouldn't try to support to do this thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot, and we've gone through various iterations. We've disagreed over time, like, no, maybe this, maybe that. And I think I don't want to speak for Dana, but for me, I land in the place where we can take almost anybody. There are some students whose writing skills will be limiting, and there are more and more of those students these days. So there are like kind of these limiting factors, but we want freshmen, we want seniors. We take freshmen and seniors as well as sophomores and juniors, which is the bulk of who we take, sophomores and juniors, that is. We take all of them. We take students from every major, all colleges on campus, and we take students who aren't the peak academic performers, but who are just looking at us and they have this genuine heart, and we're like, we have to have that kid.
Yeah.
So we're not looking for a specific type of student. We're not like trying to weed out students. We're trying to include students. So we want to build more structures that support them to do this amazing thing that's going to set them up for a tremendous amount of, they're just going to open doors that they never even knew existed.
Yeah. And part of that is when we're taking first gen students or students that may not have the financial means to do something like this, as Ryan was talking about earlier, we do our best to make sure that the money is not the thing that prevents them from doing something like this, which can change their life. And so we have worked really hard to raise funds for scholarships and for ways we get a students have to go out, they have to ask their department, their college, everybody, are there any scholarships I can apply for? Like, reach out to your community. We want them to have skin in the game, but at the same time, we don't want that to be the thing that prevents them from going. So we're constantly trying to raise funds for scholarships for students that can get them there to do something like this, and that will often change their life.
And if we're successful at getting a diverse group of Ursans to go to Morocco, then there's also this really amazing lesson that happens through, if we have students of color, for example, mixed with our white students, and then we go to a non-white space where their kind of visibility is reversed, where the students of color here are highly visible and minoritized, and then our white students become highly visible and minoritized, then that shared experience, the ways they both walk in that new space, becomes this tremendously powerful learning experience. We don't have to do anything to make that happen. We just have to have those kids, put them as roommates together, and let them sit and walk through this space, and they'll regularly come away with new understandings of race and culture and ethnicity and nationality that they're also learning, not just about Morocco, but about their experience back in the United States.
Well, I have one more question for the two of you. So you've shared a lot about how transformative this program is for students. And I'm kind of curious as well, what is the most meaningful or most transformative aspect of this program for each of you?
You first. I need time to think.
That's so not fair. So I will say that, really students getting to share their stories, watching students go through this and experience growth and change. And, you know, as teachers, as professors, oftentimes we're in it for the aha moment. Like, we want our students to, like, they grasp something, they get it for the first time. And when students say, like, what's going to happen in Morocco? We don't know. We don't know what your experience is going to look like. We just know the magic is going to happen in Morocco in some way, and you just need to be ready for it and open to it. And to watch students regularly go through that process, new ones each time, and experience this magic and have their lives changed, the way they think about their life, themselves, the world changed, There's just every year there's just numbers and numbers of those. And then speaking personally, I feel like in many ways I'm the best version of myself in Morocco because I get to draw on all the skill sets that I have, which are very relational. There's a language skill set. I get to use my French. I'm very curious about things. So I'm always learning something new. And the students are always bringing me into these new spaces of learning that are just like, I love that space. And so for me, that's one of the most rewarding things about it. And then getting to do something like this with Ryan is fantastic for me.
Ditto, bro. Yeah, I mean that's well articulated. So if I could add one thing, I personally, it has transformed how I inhabit my own spaces. So all of that, watching students grow is the greatest reward. But for me, I've also I've changed. It's changed the kind of teacher I am. It's changed the way I interact with my kids. It's changed my marriage. It's changed my friendships. It's made all of them better. We get to learn again and again and again the lessons that we're trying to share with our students because we're inhabiting space in Morocco in the same way. And it's been transformational to me as a person.
Thanks for letting us share this with you today.
And I think I just want to leave with one comment that was dropped in the Q&A. So there's an alum on the call right now, and they said that this was the best year commitment they have ever made.
Oh,
so we'll leave it on that. But I just want to thank both of you for sharing about this program, and for those of you that this is your first time joining us, we host these virtual webinars usually twice a month. So if you'd like to be added to our mailing list, feel free to drop us an email, and we'll do that. So I guess on that note, thank you both for being here, and good luck with the banquet tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.